guys went from being shot out of a cannon to be on The Amazing Race. Talk about your casting process and why did you want each other as partners?
Oh, I go first. I'll go ahead.
You can go
Yeah.
whatever order you want. Speak
All right,
freely.
cool. Let's go.
I actually, my cousin was the one who actually sent me the advertisement for the Amazing Race. I was actually, I was on the circus, and then I was on a cruise ship at the time, entertaining, as an entertainer on the cruise ship. And I saw it, and he's like, "Oh, this is about travel, and you've been traveling all over the place." So I'm like, "Oh, this is cool." And of course, the only one I could think of to doing it with was my buddy John from the circus. I just thought we would have a blast doing it. We'd be supportive of each other, and we're like, yeah, let's just throw our hats in the rings and give it a go. And then I let John know about it.
And then when he let me know about it, I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great, Al. Sure." And I was supposed to fill out the application, and I never did. And then he kept calling me. Listen, we only got a couple of days left. But the thing about it, when we put our audition tape in, you're supposed to be together when you do it, and it needs to be 3 minutes. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to splice, me being somewhere else and Al being somewhere else, the video for our audition tape. And that was an interesting process, wasn't it, Al?
Yeah, it was fun. I
Yeah.
kind of spliced it together. Don't forget, this is back in like 2001, whatever, 2002. So I spliced it together and I tried to do video of different things and me running to the FedEx office and John not doing
Uh,
anything and not filling out the application. And yeah, needless to say, we eventually got it to them and then the process started.
but the whole thing was because of the travel and the circus. For me, I would keep telling to Al, I said, "Look, man, even if they accept us, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go because I'm shooting out of the cannon. I have to get someone to replace me." So that whole getting the opportunity to be on the race was, I never thought it was going to happen. To be honest with you, I said, "We don't have a chance." So I wasn't worried about any of those things. And then all of a sudden, they wanted to accept us. We had to go to California. We had to go through psychological testing. We did it at different times, Al and I. I came in the day before Al, and
No, I came in before you. Oh
oh,
no,
is that
yeah.
what it was? No, I think I was in first.
No, you came there first.
Yeah. So they got me doing all this psychological testing. Al knows where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, it was funny.
So the first day was like 700 questions. The second day was like 400 and some questions. And so we get that done. Again, I'll take it from there.
And then I came in the next day. And the funniest thing is, John, like they told us beforehand, that you can't tell people your name, you can't tell people who you are, what you're here for, anything like that. So they brought Jimmy up to the hotel room. We were in sequester basically, and knock on the door, and John opens the door. All right, I'll let you in. It's you, Al. And then we're there, and then someone calls up our room, and again we had different names. Like my name was Pete, and his name was like Kyle or something. So someone calls up from production and it's just like, "Hey, yeah, John, we need to talk to you." And he's like, "John's not here." Hangs up on. I'm like, "John, I think that's the production. I think we're supposed to answer." No, 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 no. They're testing us. Calls up. Yeah, John, this is production. We need to talk to you about some things. John's not here. Hangs up on him. I'm like,
It was terrible.
I don't know about this. I think something's wrong here. And then all of a sudden, a couple minutes later, we hear knocking on our door. And of course, John opens the door and peeks through the crack. And it's like, yeah, he's like, "John, we've been calling you. We need to go over some things with you." He's like, "Oh, no, no, no. My name's not John," and closes the door. I'm like, "John, I think we can trust these guys. This is the
Yeah.
production company."
That was a disaster. So
But the
we
funny
go to
thing is,
yeah.
the funny thing is after that, what John was talking about, this test, it was like a cross-cultural psychological exam, blah, blah, blah. And the first one we did was written, like 400, 500 questions. And what was amazing about that, John and I took it at different times. And when they went over these tests with us, they said, we could actually take your test, Al, and your test, John, and lay them on top of each other. And they are almost exactly alike the way you answered these questions, which is really cool.
And we tested on different days.
That's
Yeah.
That's insane. But when you start the race, obviously, I'm sure you watched a little bit of the show. So what did you expect going into it? And maybe like how did that change while running it?
Oh, I'll
Go ahead, John.
start this one. I didn't know very much about the Amazing Race at all. I didn't even watch a full season. After this process, when I really started learning, I watched, some different seasons. But my expectations was we were going to do challenges, we were going to race, against other teams, and we are going to be very competitive. So as far as I was concerned, we had no problem in that area. And as far as cultural differences in different places of the world, we already had a diversified culture in the circus industry. So we thought it was a natural fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Connor, when I applied for the Amazing Race, I didn't really watch it. Maybe I watched one or two episodes, and I'm like, oh, this seems cool. And I do remember season 3, Andrew Shade. I saw him in his father's episode, their season, and I was like, oh wow, this really looks cool. So we only watched a couple, and then what we found come to find out is like there were a lot of people who were applying for this that like watched it religiously, studied it, knew exactly what they were getting into. We were just like, yeah, we're going to travel around the world. It's going to be a race, and we're going to compete as much as possible.
Yeah, so going into Italy, you chose rescue for the G Tour. Was that fun? Because I can't stand the cold and it was freezing, but you seemed to get through the cable line really quickly and just smoke a bunch of teams.
Well, do you know there's a reason for that? We we work in the industry with this high wire walkers. So if you watch that part of the that episode when we're going across the wire, we reference a very famous high wire act called the Quiros.
Yeah.
So when I was going across it, you could hear me say Quiros.
Yeah.
So in our industry, everybody knew that, and we were just super excited to start our first challenge, our first competition within the Amazing Race. So I mean, we were so tired because the elevation was so high. Remember, Al? And
Yeah.
we couldn't understand why we couldn't breathe.
It was crazy. But yeah, that was the rescue was great, and that's exactly what our past experience with high wire and trying it out with the circus. We were just like, all right, we know what we got to do. Let's just whip through this one and go.
But a lot of decisions that we made were based on that. As we talk about this, we'll highlight that. But a lot of decisions we made up front before we even did the race.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so going into episode 2, were you excited or nervous going down that giant Olympic mountain with that raft? Because that did not seem safe, and we saw Kelly like go down not even with the raft because they went the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So, like, how was that for you? Because I would have been terrified.
Oh, she was funny. That was funny. She went down on her butt, didn't she? Yeah, she went down on her
Yeah.
butt. They messed up. Um, I'm afraid of heights, so going high up there, I was like, oh, geez, and go. I just closed my eyes and just held on for your life. John loves that stuff, though.
I was super excited, man. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I was just all for it. But yeah, I was like heights. I'm not as achieved a swimmer as Mr. Scuba Diver, Mr. Al. So
Oh,
anything to deal with eating, excuse me, like eating competitions or any eating within the race, I would do it. Anything
yeah,
dealing with heights, I would do it. Anything dealing with water, I was doing, no matter what it was, whatever
yeah.
it was. Yeah.
So we kind of divided up a little bit of our stuff beforehand.
Yeah, so how stressful was it during the entire leg? You're basically doing all these tasks, and then there's a giant equalizer for like the find the person in a mask roadblock, and you're in the back of the pack. Like, how stressful was that, John, doing that roadblock? Because you could have gone home.
Well, and
Well,
John, first
yeah,
of all,
let me check. Yeah,
that was
let's
in
tell them.
Venice, right?
Yeah.
That was in Venice, Italy. And
What
I
did we
have
do? We were the
to,
first ones there, remember?
yeah, we were the first ones in line, and then it said it didn't open up till like 9 o'clock at night, and we're like, screw this, we're gonna go around and look at Italy, Venice, Italy. And we were really hungry at that time too.
Wait, before you begin. So we waited for several teams to arrive to establish our position.
Hmm.
And then we said, guys, we're going to go and research the area. And so what, go ahead. And so the when we went out,
Yeah, we went out. One thing we did is we were really hungry because we were saving our money, squirreling our money away. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just get a little something to eat. And you know what? You're in Venice, Italy, and where do you go to eat? So we went to Chinese food. And we actually went, we sat down. I'm like, John, we can't spend a lot of money.
I said,
All right.
no.
So just order like some rice and maybe I'll get cups of water because we could just drink that and it won't cost us anything. So I basically ordered like white rice and water. And then when it came to John order, he goes to the guy, he goes, oh yeah, I'll get the pepper steak. I'm like, what? What do you mean pepper steak? So I kept ordering the water and more waters. What I didn't realize is they were charging me for the water. So whatever I paid, the cost of my meal was more than John's meal, and he got pepper steak.
Because
That's
of the water.
that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
So getting back to your question, as we go on a tangent somewhere else.
You're fine. It's your podcast.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. There was one thing. There was one benefit of us going around. When we walked around Venice, we got off of a line and we walked around Venice. We actually saw where the finish line was. Remember, John?
Yep. Yes.
Said,
Right.
oh my God, look, there's the red and yellow flags. Let's take note of that because we know we're going to have to eventually go back there. So that did help us out because we kind of had an idea of
You're
where.
right about that. I forgot. But
Yeah.
that, like, so we went around town. We come back and everybody didn't honor our position in line.
Yeah.
And so
And we
that's
were
why
there.
I was one of the last people to go in and try to figure this clue out.
I went in first.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So we were at the
Yeah.
end of the line because of that. Everyone else just stayed there. It was probably they had to stay there for about 4 or 5 hours. And it was raining.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
that's right. Yeah, it was raining. It was terrible.
But it was it definitely we were lucky we were able to get, figure that out and get to the finish line.
Woo! That was a close one, man.
Yeah.
So going into episode 3, where did the alliance start with Millie and Chuck, and what kind of drew you to the virgins as they were
Was that on the train, Al?
Yeah, episode 3.
Remember
That's
she had
when
the
we
asthma
first
attack?
saw it.
It was Marseille. We started to, oh no, I know where it started. In Venice. From Venice, we were running towards, I think we were going to Austria. I believe we were going to Austria. And
Uh-huh.
what happened is all the teams were running for a train. And at that time, Millie had an asthma attack. And in the middle of the train station, she just stopped, dropped her stuff, and was like coughing and couldn't breathe. All the other teams just ran past her. And what did John and I do? We stopped. We're like, are you okay here? You want some water? You want this? You want that? We started talking to them. All the other teams got on the train. The train took off, and we missed that train. So that's when it kind of started, and they were just like, hey, those guys are nice guys. Some people would say, they're like, oh, well, you're crazy. It's a competition. Who cares about anybody else? Just go by, and who cares what happens to them? But, the more and more I thought about it, and people have said it, I said, we ran the race as ourselves. We care about other people. We want to help other people.
Yeah.
Of course, I will say, if we ever have the opportunity to do this again, maybe I'll be like, here, Millie, here's a water, and I keep running.
Yes.
But I think we would be definitely, a little bit more.
Oh, I would definitely, man. If we had the opportunity to do it again, man, I would be way more aggressive in our approach.
That's where more aggressive.
Yeah, more aggressive, 100%. And it's just because, look, at the time, this is season 4. At the time, we wanted to show that nice guys can finish first. You don't need to be an asshole, So, and that was our whole thing. We didn't want to change who we were when we did the race, because the money is spent and gone. Then what about your reputation, your honor, and who you are as a person, So that really meant a lot to us when we ran the race. And I think we did it well. We did our family and industry proud.
So that's where it all started with Millie and Chuck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, Chuck, man.
So going after that, John, were you excited to bungee jump during the roadblock? Because I'm actually a huge fan of heights, so a lot of your
Wow.
tasks, I think I would actually do pretty good at.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that was one of the things we were talking about height. I knew that this was a challenge I had to do. And one of the things that I had to show on the race is no fear, because I was the human cannonball. Excuse me. So, the human cannonballs get nervous and bungee jump. I couldn't show fear. So I was up there. My biggest concern was the equipment. I kept looking at the equipment, like what they were being used, and they're very thorough in the race. I mean, they're going to make sure that everything is copacetic. They even try these things out every once in a while prior to us doing it. So I was petrified, man. It was like what 480 feet or something like that, something crazy.
Y-
And when you look down, everything's like a little piece of pepper, little dots walking around down there. And so when you have to like eventually jump, it was rough, man. I mean, when that recoil, when you went down and it pulled you back up, my ankles were killing me. All I want to do is get down because the pressure on my ankles was killing me. But yeah, man, I was very fearful. But I tell you, man, you overcome your fears. That's what the race was about. Challenge yourself, and we were doing that every step of the way.
Yeah, so I gotta ask this. So going into episode 4, how hard was it putting the tire in on that car? And was it like fun riding the racetrack for the roadblock?
That was John.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, I loved it. The competition of taking those tires and getting them on the vehicle and then jumping in the vehicle and actually going around the track was incredible. I mean, look, I don't know I don't know how to express it any more than that. This when you say the Amazing Race is a chance of a lifetime, it was. It was outside of anything else we've ever done. And we've done some wild stuff in our industry, in the circus industry. And so, how can anything compare to that? Oh my God. I
Yeah.
mean, by the time the race was over, we were so humble as human beings. It was crazy. We're already humble, but it really humbled you because you don't have anything. You have your ability to communicate. That's it. There's nothing else. And so I don't know. I don't know what the question was. I went on a tangent again.
Yeah, so were you how nervous were you, Al, doing the ropes rappel detour because you said you were afraid of heights? And then how nice was it finishing second, or were you like, this is bullshit, we want a first place victory?
Oh my God, yeah. I was nervous about the rappel. I remember going. That was in France. I remember going down, and I remember John at the bottom going, "Come on, Al, just let your weight bring you down." I'm like, "Shut up, John." But I was nervous, and once I got down there, I was great. And I really thought we were going to be in first. I was like, "Oh man, we're cooking, man. We're cooking now." And then when I got there, it was a little disappointing, but yeah, we took it and we said, "You know what? It gives us a reason to strive for first now for the next leg of the race." But it was great, and that was it was a good leg of the race. We had a good time that time.
Yeah, so going into episode 5, how nasty was that cow manure?
That was in Amsterdam. It was very funny because when we read it, we first of all when we got on the boat, everyone was just wanted to take off in the canals, and I'm like, let's just John, just wait here. And I think we were actually circling until I got where we were in the map. I'm like, okay, I know where we are. Let's go. Because one of the biggest mistakes everyone makes is they just take off and they take off in the wrong direction. So we found out where we're going, and then when we got there and we got the clue, it was at this sheep museum or something like that. Got the clue, and we saw the cow manure, or the other one was cheese, and we both looked at each other with like, "Give us a break, man! Animals, cow manure,
We're
clowns,
doing it.
cow manure."
Yeah.
It wasn't nasty when we got in there, and we started laughing, and actually. John threw a little cow manure at me, and I'm like, John, I threw it at him. And then if you watch it again, you'll see his foot came out of his boot and he had to step into the cow manure and his socks just absorbed all the wetness.
It was just dripping, like all oozing out of it.
But it was a moment of like, we could have a little fun. We're racing hard, we're doing our best, but we're gonna have a little fun and enjoy ourselves along the way. So it
That's
was,
one of the things we tried to do all the time was to make it fun,
yeah,
no matter what the situation was.
that was great
Yeah.
though. I like that one.
That was a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, so how is the eel roadblock, Al? Because was that nasty or was it kind of fun? Because John was kind of like making fun of you and laughing at you and telling you to hurry your ass up. So what was
Yeah,
that like?
that was Amsterdam again. Yeah, that was fun. But you know what? When we got there, the eels, it was brand, the eels were fresh. We were like one of the first teams to get there. So the eels were like very, very active. And
They
like
look
when I
fresh.
went to grab them, they would like bend around almost like to try to bite me. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I didn't know if these things could bite me. So yeah, I was a little nervous, but I had to count them down and did it quick. And John was there just like pushing me along, you know. But but it was fun. It was a good thing to do. As I noticed some of the other teams as the day went on, the Eels weren't as active. So I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's not fair.
How frustrating again was it finishing in second? And this time there was actually a prize. So were you pissed that you didn't get to enjoy a little bit of tequila and some quesadillas in Mexico?
Oh my God,
I
yes,
know.
yes. Yeah,
Every
yes,
freaking
yes, and
time.
yes.
Yes. Every
Yeah,
time we're
we
always
always
like,
think,
man, someone took the fast because in that season there was a fast forward in every leg if you wanted to use it in the clue.
did we ever use our fast forward? I don't
Yeah,
remember. I
we
think
No,
we
I
did.
was gonna ask that later. Like you never even used it. So like that was weird because I mean, I think I'm not, they said that the second to last leg was the last time you could use it,
yeah. And
but
I,
it would
Why
have been
did we use
interesting
it?
if they kept it in the finals because I know in earlier seasons they had one in the finals.
yeah,
Oh, really?
I don't
Wow.
think the first season they did, but I think we were waiting until we were really in a bind, and then we're going to be like, all right, let's just use it or
Yeah.
something like
It's
that. You know,
it's the
we
same
love
thing with the
money.
money, hanging on to all the money because we knew
Yeah,
if we got to the last leg of the race, we just throw, $100 bills or whatever we had with us at the
yeah,
driver, you know?
so we were always saving our stuff and preparing for like, all right, what's going to happen down the road, and we're going to be prepared for that. But yeah, we're kind of bummed. Yeah, I think it was Chuck and Millie who got it that they came
Yeah.
Yep.
in. I was like, damn it, we should have been there.
So going into episode 6, how stressful was it like navigating through India? I mean, obviously you're a guy guy team, so it's a lot easier. Like when I spoke to Monica and Sheree a couple of years ago, they were like, it was awful. But how stressful was that getting on the train, dealing with all like the shoving and all that stuff, and just
Oh,
navigating through it?
well, the interesting thing is that we went on several trains in India, but we didn't realize that there's a male and female car. So we went into a male car with one of our female racers. Who was that? Who was that went on the train and we were like circled around her and protect her? You
I think it
remember?
was
Al?
Tian and Jaree. Maybe they did.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
so there
no,
was a
it was
lot of
Kelly. It was
navigating in,
Kelly.
in India was tough, man.
It was Kelly, John, because remember she
Oh,
was like, yeah,
yeah, it was Kelly. Wow.
John and Kelly, and she's like,
Yeah,
they're touching me, and it was packed. And I'll tell you, I mean, you had to push your way into it, and our cameraman, I think actually Chuck and Millie got separated from their cameraman, but it was so packed, and people were hanging off the trains, and it was like we were like, this is crazy.
Yeah, so after that, how nasty was carrying those fish, or did you think it was easy for that task?
I got to show you.
Oh,
Hold on, before you say that, I happen to have some pictures here, and here's a picture of John with the basket with the fish. I don't have the one
Wow.
he held it over his head. There's some other pictures when we were
Yeah,
on the lake.
I love the visual aid. I've never had like an actual visual pictures on the actual podcast before, so that's a
Oh,
first.
really? Yeah,
wow.
I got some
Look
really
at
good.
that.
I got some awesome pictures. I also have just to not to. We'll get back to it, but we happen to have the actual Amazing Race clues and the route markers, and I have some more over here when we were in Austria.
We saved
These are
everything, man.
actual ones from the race that we had. They just happened to somehow get lost in the backpack, and I
Yeah, we didn't realize we had it in the backpack.
yeah. Here's another
Yeah,
one,
awesome.
and
Yeah,
there's the whole team. That's the picture of the team in the finish line.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. So, and I keep them all in like a scrapbook. I love
Yeah,
to go back and reminisce
you
always.
got to do that. You got to put in a scrapbook or frame it. That's what I would do.
John framed it.
I have a framed. Yeah, I framed tickets from India from the train.
Oh, sorry.
Framed
Here's
with,
one John jumping off the.
oh
We didn't
wow,
talk
look at
about
that.
it.
Oh,
Jeez,
cool.
that's crazy.
Going down the.
Oh yes, that was great.
And
Wow, I can't believe you have all this stuff.
yeah, fast forwards was there. This is when
Oh,
we first started when we were in LA.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really cool. Yeah. And they're in the originals, but don't tell CBS because they'll track me down and try to get them back.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't,
they'll make you
I
do another race.
This
I
is
don't.
from the hotel in Italy when we stayed, Hotel Dolomite, Dolomiti. Yeah, pretty cool. All right, but how, John, the fish? Talk about the fish. What
Oh,
did
the
you get?
fish. Well, you had to get certain size fish, which I was trying to figure out when they were telling me. And it has to be the right fish. I don't know if they're mackerel, I forget what they were. And so I was just grabbing fish, like throwing them in the basket, and they tell me no. I'm like, what? Oh my God. So then I have to go back. But then I had to carry it over my head,
Yeah, because it's
carry it
so
over
cool.
my head. Yeah, and walk with all this juice and then bring it to somebody so they can make sure I have the right fish. Then run back and get more. It was a challenging task for me.
It's
Um,
funny when he picked it up over his head, like all the fish and the juice and the water. I just looked at him and it was all like dripping all over him. I'm like, oh my God, John, I can't believe you.
we had some
This,
incredible challenges in India, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
India was great. It was, yeah, very humbling experience, and we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so after that, you're kind of like in a semi foot race with Tien and Jury. I mean, they checked in like a minute ahead of you. So did you actually think that you were in last at that point, or like did you think that you were near the bottom because you finished sixth out of seventh?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
we,
India.
we thought we were going to be eliminated. To be honest with you, we knew that we were way behind. We knew other teams were way ahead of us, and that when we ran to the pit stop, we were very nervous because we didn't know absolutely anything about any other teams. And so when we ran up like that, I remember like looking at Phil and wondering, and he was hesitating on saying what place we were. Do you remember that, Al? In
Yeah,
India, remember we were stuck in like traffic, and we jumped out and just started running.
yeah, we were really nervous.
It was like
Yeah,
rough.
we weren't sure. That's one of the things with the race, I have to say. You just don't know where you are. Are you in the middle of the pack? Are you in the end of the pack? And the whole idea is you just got to push and get there before anybody, or just keep pushing and think that you're at the end. Which I think earlier years, I continue to watch it, and I think it's changed over the years. But in the early of the years, it was a little bit more rustic, like what we would do. They didn't give us anything. They didn't. The only time we got a place to sleep was at the pit stop. They never gave us any clothes or warm jackets or
Oh
anything. And
no, never.
in later episodes, I noticed when people were in the mountains, they all had the same jacket. I'm like, wait a minute. And I talked to them, and they're like, oh yeah, production gave us the jackets. So I was like, it was a little
But
weird.
and one of the things I tell you is bring clothing for warm and hot weather. So we figured that and they didn't give us anything on season four. And we started the when you go to a pits or you go to a challenge, we started the number. When you get a number, I think did they start on our race?
Yeah,
Al, do
maybe.
you
I
remember?
think so.
Yeah, because there was so much controversy about who was where in line when you got to a challenge and it didn't open till the next day. There was so many arguments and in in we were all fighting within ourselves and it was terrible. And so
Yeah.
I think that's when production started saying you thinking lumber.
Yeah, so going into episode strip seven, how stressful was the bull riding roadblock when you're getting dragged in the mud, Al? And how did you feel while competing on it? Because I can just imagine myself just swallowing a bunch of mud and not even being able to do it with my 130-pound frame.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I remember that. And it was India. And an interesting thing is, I actually went back several years later, I think in 2020, February 2020, and I went back to that area where we were in the Amazing Race. I was on a trip to an educational trip. So it was really cool to go back and revisit that area. But when we did it, we were just gung ho. We were just going full steam ahead. I ran down there, didn't realize there was protective goggles, didn't realize they had other protective stuff. I just grabbed
Did you
onto
have
them.
gloves or something too?
Yeah, and they just took off, and that freaking it was so muddy, and the mud and all that water and everything was splashing in my eyes, in my nose, in my mouth, all over. And I was just like, hold on for dear life because I will not be able to do this again if I don't get all the way to the finish line.
You did
But
it,
it was
man, on the
really
first
cool.
one.
It was cool to see and see all the local people around there to watch it. And I'm glad I got to do it. But it was rocky. And I'll tell you, you're dragging yourself in mud with rocks and water. And it's not like, oh, nice and smooth or anything like that. It's rocky and you're getting scrapes on you and everything.
Yeah, so after that, how much fun was it riding the elephant? Because you were still like in the front of the pack, and so what was that like? 'Cause that's got to be like a once in a lifetime experience.
That was good. Well, because we were with the circus, we've actually ridden elephants before in
Oh,
the
that's
show
right.
and throughout
And
town. So John and I knew exactly how to mount the elephant, the
yep.
proper way to do it. And once we heard about the elephant, we're like, we're definitely doing the elephant.
Oh
We
yeah,
have
we have
to.
to. Yeah.
And John got on there. We had a good time doing that.
Oh, it's great, man.
Yeah. So
I
that
didn't
was
have one bad experience. I'll tell you that.
hmm
No.
We really liked it. We loved doing that. That was India. Yeah. That was a
Ooh.
long leg.
Yeah, it was, man. I love it.
Yeah, so going into episode 8, how much fun was going to Malaysia? Because it seems like it'd be my dream leg because you basically got to spend like the whole day at the beach and just like island hopping and you were near the top of the pack. So it didn't really seem like stressful. It seemed almost more like a vacation like.
Yeah. It was fun. And this is the picture with John in Malaysia when he was doing the bow and
Oh
arrow
yeah.
to hit the thing. But it was fun. It was a really, really cool leg of the race. Malaysia was beautiful. We were exhausted by then. By then, physically, we were just worn out, constantly running. And people don't realize what the race is. I think the real story is seeing behind the scenes and what happens when you're not actually racing as well, because it could be 2 or 3 days before a pit stop. And in those 2 or 3 days, you don't get a place to sleep, you don't get food, you don't get anything. You could,
Nothing.
in India, we slept on the side of the road of a
Oh,
highway, but people don't realize that. They don't show that.
Yeah.
So in Malaysia, it was nice because it was a beach. We got there. That was the one where we came in first place as well. It was like a foot
yep.
race for Chip and Riken, and we did win. We came in first, and you're right. It was kind of a time to just take a breather and relax. And did we? Where did we stay? I forgot. Was it tents or a
We did.
little?
And we stayed in the step block reserves. That was for the chimpanzees. Remember that?
No,
They
it
were
was the.
beautiful.
I don't
That
think.
was
Oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah. You're right.
Malaysia. That was
You're
Malaysia.
right. No, that was right. That was Malaysia when the Sepalak, and it was the
Yes, Sepalak.
orangutans. It was the orangutans, not the chip.
Orangutan. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Oh, that was beautiful. And actually, that was a time where the group was smaller. So actually, we were talking to each other. A lot was going on. Chip and no, not Chip and Riken. Chuck and Millie just got eliminated. It was very stressful. No, no, we're talking about two different things. I'm sorry. Kota Kinabalu is where we stayed, John, for Malaysia. That was that
Okay.
island. And then
Right.
after that, we did the one with the Sepalak
With
orangutan
with the
rescue.
reserves, yeah.
But the one on Kota Kinabalu, it actually we got to relax and chill out, and it was a good downtime. It was beautiful though. Really
Oh
liked
God, yeah.
Malaysia.
That was what they call a 36-hour rest period, wasn't it? Something like that, or what was it? Like a
24-hour
12
rest
hour,
period.
24 hour, yeah.
We had one 24-hour rest period. Otherwise, it was 12 hours. So if we ended 11 o'clock at night, we started 11 o'clock in the morning. If we ended at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we started at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Going back to episode 8, how satisfying was it, John, doing well in that roadblock, which actually was a survivor challenge from season 1, believe it or not? And then what was this feeling of actually like winning the leg for once? Because you had finished second, like I think 3 times before.
What was the roadblock again?
It was like you had to shoot, you had to
Oh, the arrows.
hit some coconut or something.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No, I was like, I was up for the challenge, and I don't think I think I got it on the third one. Was it Al? I forgot.
Yeah, you did it pretty quick.
Yeah, I did it pretty quick, and then on to the next one, and then we were just running on the beach. You spend so much energy, um, just strategizing and doing the race that you get an adrenaline dump, and especially on the beach because it's sand. I was so afraid that we weren't going to get to the pit stop before I think it was Chip and Riken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was so nervous, man. I was running my butt off. But it was so exciting to become first fighter because we had so many legs that we were second. You know what I mean?
I know. God.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was a survivor challenge.
I didn't
Yeah,
know either.
they didn't in like season 1 because they filmed it in Borneo, Malaysia. So, um, going into episode 9, how awful was it hurling those giant durian like pine cone things
Pine, yeah,
onto the
pine nuts, I
truck?
think they
I
were
don't know
called or
what they
something.
were.
There's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
And we had to throw them up on the back of that truck.
I get, yeah, again, I'm sorry.
Well, John and I, we always we react so quickly that we don't look at everything that's available to us. And what we didn't realize there was gloves
The
available.
gloves, yeah, the gloves.
Well, those big old things were like there were thorns in them. So we were grabbing them and throwing them up there, and they were like getting thorns in our hands. While other teams were doing, I'm like, what the hell? There was gloves. I didn't realize there was gloves.
Two idiots. We didn't realize there were gloves until after the fact.
But man, they were heavy. They were really.
Yeah, and they kept rolling off. You get one up there, and it was so packed that when you threw one up there, it would roll off, and we're like, oh my gosh. But I thought Malaysia for me was one of the best legs. But obviously because we came in first, but just in general, I loved Malaysia. I thought it was beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So how excited were you, John, doing I think it was the Rattan ladder roadblock where you're like in
Yeah.
that waterfall and you had to climb that ladder? Because you said being a clown, you had a bunch of experience climbing a huge ladder. So how was that for you? And aesthetically, it just looked beautiful, like the view and
Was that the back cave?
yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that was
the
the back
back
cave.
cave.
Oh God, man! I was like, yeah. I mean, because I had to climb up, then I had to climb out to get the clue, like pull it up. So again, your adrenaline is going so high. That for me, I think somebody who else was there at the same time. There was someone else there, wasn't it, Val? So I think who it was.
I'm not sure.
I think they were there at the same
The
time we were
goats.
there.
I think the goats were coming in as we were going out.
Maybe it was the goats. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I look, that challenge for me was incredible because just being in that bath cave and just being surrounded by this incredible nature of to me every time we did something it was just amazing to me. And Al and I know Al felt the same way. It was just we were blessed, man, to be a part of this. We were figuring out the amazing race as we go, and we were getting better and better as it went along. I mean, but
Yeah.
Malaysia to me was one of the best places ever.
Yeah, so going into episode 10, what's your feeling when you're at the North and South Korean border and you're seeing people with tanks and guns and lined up? And were you afraid that production was actually trying to kill you?
Yeah, let me tell you, that was a really scary leg for us. Because it was very difficult to communicate with the people there. Communication was very difficult. We actually teamed up with the goats, Jeff, and I forgot the other guy's name, but
David.
Dave and Jeff, yeah.
Yeah.
That we actually took a taxi together. And as we were going in, they start all of a sudden I started seeing tanks. I started seeing military. I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. We're going in the wrong direction. Stop, 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 stop. And we were going in the wrong direction. Thankfully, we turned around and we started to go up towards where the lake was. But it was scary. And we knew when we got up there, we knew one, that it was going to be a very challenging task because there was a couple ambulances in the background. And two, we knew we were last. We were the last two teams to arrive. And
Yeah.
it was damn scary because Jeff and Dave went before us, and we were worried that they were going to take the taxi and just take off, and we were in the middle of the mountains. We would have never got a taxi.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they didn't, and they waited for us to finish it. It was scary. That task was freaking scary.
Yeah, we kind of thought we were out at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
weren't.
so after that, was it fun taking out your aggression, dealing with all that traffic, punching those boards and that karate style detour?
Yeah,
Oh,
John blew right through it. He was like, bam, bam, bam. And then he's like, all right, I'll go. And I'm like, oh, crap, this is going to be fun.
did you hurt your hand or something on that one?
Yeah, I did one and I didn't get through. I'm like, oh man, that hurt my hand. But it was fun. It was good to take the aggression out. But we would have had to do the other thing, which was eat the live
Octopus.
octopus, and I would have never been able to do that.
I would have.
I would. Well, it was the eating challenge. I would have had to do it anyway.
We both had. I thought we both had to do it.
Oh, right. Okay, you're right, Al. Shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. Yeah, it was really crazy.
So, how pissed were you that it was a non-elimination leg? 'Cause when Phil says you're team number three, I assume you're like, we're going to waltz through in the finals. And your season was really weird because you had a non-elimination in like when there were five teams left, four teams left, and three teams left, which was a really weird format. Like you would think it would be earlier. So, how pissed were you?
Yeah, we weren't happy with all these non-eliminations. We felt like I like it now how the Amazing Race is where there's no non-eliminations because even though there were so many times a lot of the teams would have been out that we were up
Oh
against.
God, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was frustrating. I mean,
Very frustrating. That's a good
and
word.
then there, there were legs that you said, "Oh, I hope it's a non-elimination," and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like terrible.
Yeah, it was a bummer, but you had to deal with it and you just dealt with it.
Yeah, so going into episode 11, why did you not even look at Singapore Airlines? Because you were the first actually at the airport, and there was like Korean Air and Singapore Air, and they were kind of like together, it seemed like. And so why didn't you even
Okay.
look at that?
So Connor, this is a big thing. We weren't allowed to talk about this, and but we're allowed to. It's been 20 years. When we went, and this is like major. People in the Amazing Race asked us about this. They were like, something was weird happened in that air in South Korea. When we were in South Korea, we contacted a travel agency in India, and they was open 20. We befriended them when we were in India. They said we're open 24 hours, 365 days. Anytime you guys need help, call us. So we called them, and they told us to take this one flight that went to Brisbane, Australia. They said, look, all the other teams, I'm sure, are going to take this one flight, probably Singapore Air. Um, but there's bad storms coming up, and they're going to get delayed. So take this other flight. It gets in later, but it goes a different route, so you'll get in sooner. So we booked that flight.
Yeah.
The only team, the other three teams booked the other flight. So what we did is we were waiting, but what happened is the bad weather hit the Seoul, Korea airport. So we were like, uh-oh. We were in the airport. We're like, we need to change the flight to get on with the other three because who knows what's going to happen now. We actually, since we were in the airport, now you're given a credit card by CBS. You're allowed to order as many tickets as long as they're fully refundable. So we called up and we went to go order new tickets for John, myself, and the cameraman and sound guy for the airlines that the other teams were on. The credit card didn't work. So we're like, what? And there was a producer with us, and they said, no, your credit card was denied. And we're like, that's impossible. It's a CBS credit card, it's a corporate card. The producer didn't understand it either. So she said, you know what? Use my credit card. It's a CBS card. So we actually gave that card. We gave John's name, my name, the cameraman, sound guy. And then they said, go to the gate where the other teams were because they're going to open up the airport very soon. Now, again, they don't show any of this on TV. Nothing. We ran to the gate. They were calling John's name, passenger John Weiss, passenger John Weiss. He's like, I'm right here, but my partner Al also. They're like, no, we only have you on the manifest. We're like, no, that's impossible. We ordered four tickets for us two, our sound guy and our camera guy. Big commotion going on. Security comes. All of a sudden, this little guy comes running in with John's ticket, and he explained that after John's ticket was purchased, the credit card was denied. We couldn't order the other tickets. So this was never shown on TV. We weren't allowed to talk about it. We went for a year after it because every interview they asked us about what I don't understand. And they edited and made it look like you guys were just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
But that was the case. Our credit, we couldn't. We had a credit, and we should have used. John memorized his own personal credit card, and we were like contemplating using that. But the producer did tell us you're not allowed to use your own funds, or else you'll be eliminated. So we had to sit there and wait. And then once the other teams left, our credit card worked.
That's
Yep.
that's ridiculous. I'm surprised production didn't give you like
Well, what they
some
did,
money
what
because
they did, yeah, what they did is when, all right, the other team left, the next flight was like 3.5 hours later. So we took that next flight. Our credit card miraculously worked now. We got down to Brisbane, Australia. The other three teams were there. I'll never forget this. It's like ingrained in my brain because I'm like, something happened here. Something was manipulated or something. Anyway, we went. The other three teams were there. As we're like, oh my god, I guess we got caught up. we started running. Somebody comes out. It was somebody from CBS and said, "Stop! We got to talk to you guys." They said, "We understand your credit card didn't work in Seoul, Korea, but that's just a form of bad luck. It was the computer terminal that messed up. So we held up the other teams to investigate it. We're gonna let the other teams go ahead of you, and
Right, 45 minutes, I think it was. I remember.
you have to sit here and wait for 3.5 hours.
That
And after a three
And,
hour,
and, and we almost caught up to stay in the race within 3.5 hour difference.
so
that's not bad luck. That's production's fault.
yeah, so
Yep.
we're never allowed to talk about it, and it always like stung us, and we're like, something fishy happened. Something happened here that our credit card didn't work.
And we were so nice with the CBS lawyers, remember? Oh, at least you guys looked into it. We feel better now.
Oh no, I would have been
No,
pissed.
no, man, we were too nice.
Yeah, we didn't know better. And similar things have happened, and people put it on camera to relive it, and CBS took care of them. But we were really upset about that. And we're like, you know what? This is bull.
I think we had the potential to win the Amazing Race if that didn't happen.
You probably could have got a decent amount of money because I know there was one guy on Survivor that ended up getting eliminated because he got a question right in a challenge, but they didn't have it as like one of the answers because they didn't know.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting like $100,000 because he was like, if he didn't win, she would have been gone. I could have won the last challenge and then I could have won the game. And so they gave him like hush money to.
And I wish we would have thought about that. I think we were so depleted emotionally and physically that we were just like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. You didn't know where you were going, and and they just were just basically like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. We looked into it. I wish we would have pushed it, and I wish we would have questioned it. But I don't know. Bring us back on, and we'll show them what to do.
No, we can still do this, man, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So how nervous were you scaling that 200-foot building? They did a lot of heights challenges in your season.
I hated
Yeah,
that.
I had no problem with it. I thought it was great, man. That was face first. That was face first, remember?
Yeah.
We had to go down face first.
Yeah.
And I think Brisbane.
That challenge for me was cool, man. I was just worried about Al because I know he hates heights.
It was
And he
hot.
was like, he was walking down. I remember you walking down, feeding the rope, and you were
Yeah.
like little feet. Your feet were going a mile a minute. I was cracking up.
Scary, man. It was like,
But you did it, man. I was so proud of you, man.
yeah, you basically sit on the side of a building, and then what you do is you put your butt on the top of the building, put your feet on the side of it, and they say just push out. And as you push out, your face facing the concrete straight down.
Yeah, so after that, how stressful was it diving with those sharks, Al, or were you not nervous at all?
Well, we knew we had to hustle. We knew we had to try to catch up. So yeah, it was a little scary, and they told us make sure you put your fingers underneath your arms like this. Don't put your fingers out because they can mistaken it for fish. So I was just like, oh my God. And then I went, and there's one point where there was a shark right in front of me, and John's just like, go underneath him, go underneath him. I'm like, hang on. So it was scary, but I have scuba dived in the past. But once we got that, and we knew we had to run.
It was another water challenge, and Al was going to do it. That's for sure.
Yeah, any water challenges. John's not a great swimmer, so
I gotta give the editors credit for this because they've never done this, I don't think, since, and they should do it. When a team gets a penalty, it looked like you guys actually passed Chip and Riken, but then it said that you got eliminated. So shout out for the editors for that one because, like, when you first watched, you're like, oh, they ended up beating them, and then that wasn't the case. I think they should do that for like more things if they have a penalty. But
yeah.
anyway, were you ever asked back for All Stars? Because I think Kelly and John were alternates. Monica and Shuri, when I spoke to them, they were alternates. And then when I spoke to Joyce, who won season 7 and who was actually on All Stars, she was stunned that you weren't there. She was like, clowns aren't there. I'm surprised this team wasn't there, and I'm surprised this team wasn't there.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. No, we've all you look fourth place, second chance. We think that all the fourth place people in the race you can choose different seasons, but you give the people that almost had the chance to win the race and got to that point. That would be a cool season, I think.
But we were surprised, and I believe
Yeah.
he was doing some stuff, some podcasts and stuff for CBS at the time, and someone came up to him and said, "Are you psyched because I heard you're going to All Stars, right, John?
Yep. And
Okay.
I'm like, oh,
So John's like, what are you talking about? And the guy shut up. So come to find out later on that we were out of all the fan groups, we were like in the top 5 to come back. Phil also liked us and thought we would be a great team to come back for All Stars. But what we heard through the grapevine is that there was a producer who didn't like us. I'm not sure who it was. I don't think it was Bertram, but it was somebody who said they don't make good TV because they're not backstabbing, they don't fight with other people, they're nice to everybody, and they don't make good TV. And I was like, damn, I can't believe that. But we were shocked that we weren't asked back to come back, and even other stuff. I don't think we were prepared to promote ourselves and to get out there and to tell different production companies that we want to do other reality shows or we'd like to do something as a team. We really weren't prepared to do that, and I wish we were. There's some great reality shows now that I see. One of them is The Traders. That, oh my god, I think it would be great if we could be on.
Yeah. My last question is, what do you guys take away from the race?
oh, wow. I separated myself from my family. My family was very young back then, with my wife. And, what I took away from it is that, we are so blessed in our country, in America, and we take it for granted, all the things that we can do and have without even having money, with credit, you know, and to see how other people lived and it was experienced different cultures just opened my eyes up, and I was so frugal when I came home. I didn't buy paper towels. I washed my dishes, and so I wasn't wasteful. So it just to me it gave me an even greater appreciation of life, like real life. And I, I took away from the race something that you can never buy: the experience of doing the Amazing Race and doing it without. I mean, we just had a time of our life.
Yeah, same with me. I think the biggest thing I took away from that is opportunities. When opportunities appear, to grasp the opportunity and go for it 100%. Enjoy what you have because you never know what tomorrow will bring. And I'm very fortunate to have such a great friend as John to be able to do this with. I would love to do something else with him. We're both on. He's in Vegas. I'm in New York now, but I would love an opportunity for us to do something because I truly believe, back then, 20 years ago, we were having fun. We having the time of our lives. When we get together, it's like there's energy there. It's explosive, and I know even 20 years later, when we get together and when we do it, I'm going to say when because I hope opportunity appears again. We'll have the time of our lives again. And just for everyone to grasp the opportunity, don't be afraid of challenges, and get out there and see the world. And I do have to share a couple more pictures. I think this is really cool. I was looking through my book. I saved all the ticket stubs to all my flights.
Oh, that's cool.
So I took all my flights, and the funny thing is, I used them and I wrote away to all the airlines, and I asked for mileage, and I got
And you got
mileage
it?
for my.
Wow.
And this is another thing. This is I saved this. It was the must list on Entertainment Weekly, and it was John and Al on the Amazing Race 4, which is
That's
really cool
cool.
that they had us
The
on.
must list.
Well, now they just give you Expedia points if you win legs, which is nice because then you don't even have you just get like free flights and a bunch of other stuff. So
Oh,
that's
I love it. I still watch it. Still watch The Amazing Race. I'm a big fan of CBS shows and reality shows, and I just think for anybody out there, um, don't be afraid. Take the opportunity, jump in. And my last thing I'm going to share with you guys is I have one of the flags, and I got the entire cast to sign the flag.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Even Phil, Phil
that's
signed
really
it.
sweet.
So Phil's right here.
Yeah, I want to get Phil for my 100th episode, but I'm far away from that. So
Uh,
Phil's gonna be number
he's a
100.
wonderful host. I have to say, he's the most down to earth, genuine, wonderful guy we've ever met on there, and salt of the earth. And I love him. I
Yeah.
would like to see him more often. And I'm so happy he's successful in his production company.
Do you know that like when we were eliminated from the race, um, that was the first time they showed a team being eliminated? Tell them, Al.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought you were going to say. if you go back and look when we were eliminated, usually the team that's eliminated, they whisk away and you never see them. The other teams don't see them. When we got eliminated, all the other teams couldn't help it. They all said they were so overcome with like almost like sadness, but everything that they just came out and they started giving us hugs and everything. And I remember Bertram, who's the director, he's like, film this, film this. And they actually show filming of the other teams like hugging us and saying, sorry, you got eliminated and everything like that. And I've never seen it before on any of the elimination.
And even production was crying.
Yeah. They were like, we really
Even
like
production was crying. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
Bertram's great. I had him on my podcast a couple of years ago, and it's insane that he's like 80, like one now, and he's still doing all the stuff. So
amazing. Yeah.
really cool.